think Mike for whatever reason, Mike trusted everyone on this project. And so I think Jamie had given a good presentation. I think Neil stood behind it, and Neil carried a bunch of weight. And then I think we just had to go and get our actors. And I think getting Jared was a big deal.
Jared was the biggest name at the time, and I think that actually may have come through Mike.
There's a certain darkness to Jared, you know what I mean? And I think what was really great is, even though he's got this gorgeous face, he's so young, he's a baby too, such a heartthrob. Meeting with him and sort of seeing him play this role, he's a very complicated actor, which you see now so much more in his later work. But he brought that quality to this little horror movie. So it was very good, because you never knew, you always suspected him. You always felt anxious around him. We should be in love with him because he's like the hot bad boy, but he scares me.
I actually think we had a lot of leeway at that point. I think we had the guy who everyone thought you could put on the poster and whose name would potentially draw people. And then after that, I think we just went for who was the best person, you know, who filled the role.
That was the time to be in a horror movie in the 90s. Every young actress wanted to be in a horror movie because of the success of Scream.
We wanted strong actors, and Alicia was completely against type. Great actress, not somebody you would expect, or we weren't even sure she'd want to do a horror movie.
Alicia's this extraordinary actor, and again, never had done anything like this. She did not fit the kind of quintessential lead girl in a horror franchise. And I think that was the idea again. How do you make the movie feel different? And casting Alicia as our lead was one of the ways we did that.
It was something I was intrigued by, and I loved the idea of playing a character that was a survivor and somebody who was having to deal with this extraordinary circumstance and coming out at the end of it having survived. I remember talking to Wes Craven, and he explained to me that what he loved about the horror genre was that it gives people a chance to sort of exercise their fears through watching the film, and it gets your adrenaline going, and it gets you thinking about how you might react in a situation such as that. The few times that I've seen Urban Legend in the years since, I've been genuinely scared watching it. I take that stuff to heart, you know? Even in a scene like the party scenes or the coffee house scenes, more often than not, I was coming in from having been running in the rain. So I would be hosed down before the shot, and I would run in place for 60 seconds to be all out of breath. And the rest of the cast would be inside joking and laughing, and of course they had just spent the last few days hanging out and becoming friends, and I felt very much like I wasn't sure if anyone liked me. I just didn't know anybody that well. I didn't have time to get to know anybody.
Alicia is one of those like visually stunning beauties. She's got the hair and the skin, and she's got a very sort of mature old soul personality about her. So, you know, she was definitely a little different than the rest of us, but in a good way, but in a really nice way, I think.
Rebecca Gayheart was somebody who read for the role. You know, she really wanted this role. And it was not an easy choice. I mean, this is a big deal, right? Your whole movie has to kind of, you know, this is the moment where you can either lose your audience or your audience is just along for the ride. So there was lots of debate about Rebecca.
I read the script. I knew immediately that I really wanted the role and that I would do anything to get it, almost anything. And I had to go in and fight for it. There was a lot of people interested in the role, I think, and they made me fight for the role. I went in and read for it many times.
She came in and read and reread and tested, and she was like, I want this, I want this. And so for me, when I see that, I go, I want her to have this.
I remember there was a screen test, maybe 2 of those, and the last time that I read for it, I felt really good about it, and I left and I was like, okay, it's out of my hands. You know, that role's going to go to whoever it's going to go to.
The hair and makeup test is where she has naturally very curly hair. And do you want it straight or curly? And Jamie thought it would look best straight. And this is as I remember the story. And she reminded me, I think aside, you know, to get my hair straight is going to be an hour and a half or 2 hours in the chair every single day. And so I'm not going to be able to shoot for that amount of time. It's not like get in there in 20 minutes and I'm ready to go. And so Jamie and I talked, how important is it? Do we want to do that? And the brilliant thing that came out of that was realizing that when she's revealed as the killer, her hair goes to her natural, crazy, curly state. And that worked out wonderfully well.
I was so excited when I found out I got it, but I realized that a lot of it was about my hair. There's a lot of talk about my hair being curly or straight, and did my curly hair give it away? Did I look too crazy with the curly hair? Was that going to foreshadow and give it away? And so we had a lot of hair meetings.
The true star of Urban Legend is Rebecca Gayheart, and I saw Rebecca do a remarkable live theater performance as well, and she's so terrific and fresh and original and scary at the end of Urban Legend. I think she's actually the best thing in the movie.
Josh Jackson was a Dawson's Creek guy, so his star was definitely ascending. He got a role in a movie, and that was a good thing for him.
Josh definitely had some name recognition, combination of name recognition, being a great actor. There's another reason we wanted Josh.
He's hilarious and crazy and so lovable. I mean, it was a no-brainer. Like, it didn't even matter. Yes, he's on a massive, huge, successful TV series. That doesn't hurt. He literally lighted up the room. I mean, he just came in and we were all in love with him. And the tragedy was that he was like our second death or something. He dies very early in the movie and we all were apoplectic. We were like, no, we have to rewrite the script. We can't be the one. But the train had left the station.
He's excellente. He's really good.
He's so good. I mean, he's so perfect for this.
We love you, Josh. I used to say, Jack's on, Jack's off. And he was like, yeah, real funny, dude. But I was in character, you see. I was in character.
That was the one place where I saw our director, Herr Blank, get a little cruel. He was constantly referring to Josh by his character name from Dawson's Creek. I'd be sitting there and I'd hear Jamie from the back of the auditorium saying, "We're gonna go again, Pacey." Josh would go, He was relentless teasing him. But it was, if you think about it, it's an extraordinary cast. And as they say, casting is 90%.
I had just graduated college from Western Kentucky University. By the way, John Carpenter graduated from there, and he still won't return my calls. I don't get it, but I'm hoping he'll meet with me. We're both Western Kentucky alumni. I graduated. I know you probably don't think that, but I was studying theater. I was doing a lot of plays, and moved to New York. Was doing off Broadway, like way the hell off Broadway, like New Jersey Broadway. I got a gig. I got this movie, Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, with Clint Eastwood, and sort of changed my life. It was like one big scene in the movie, but it brought me out to LA. And I was just like going around town auditioning, I was living in a little apartment in a sketchy side of town, like off of Franklin in Hollywood, and there was shootings any given night while I'm working on my lines. And I get this call that says, hey, you have an audition for a movie, Urban Legend. And I'm a huge horror movie fan, right? I'm like a diehard, like my friends and I, all we would do is watch, like, I remember sitting in my bedroom in high school, memorizing, while other guys are getting laid. I couldn't get nailed in woodshop class. But I remember just memorizing the trailer for Jaws. I'm telling you, I had no life. So when I had an audition for a horror movie, like Columbia, TriStar, Phoenix Pictures, you're gonna audition for this movie, I'm just trying to think of how I felt. I felt like I got to go balls to the wall. I'm going to get this part. I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this part. And I remember learning my lines with my two nerdy horror movie geek friends and doing the audition over and over. And it was this moment in the movie where my character Parker was sort of like telling the story of an urban legend. And he goes upstairs and he bangs on every door. And I remember like thinking, oh my God, I'm going to do a sort of an impression from the movie Return of the Living Dead, when you have to see the movie, but where he's like, and they brought the bodies here. So it was a little homage, and I went in there and I fell in love with the director, Jamie Blanks, who's still a good friend, and we just recently saw each other before today. Of course, he's here watching me as we speak. But I just said, I'm gonna crush this. I'm gonna crush this. And I went in there and I gave it, I had such focus and I had such ambition. And I remember, it was unbeknownst to me, but they had, I think, cast the role, or like they were leaning on this other guy. They were gonna cast him. And I found out later that they changed their mind when I came in the room, or at least the director did. And he said, no, he's my guy. Jamie told me, that's my guy, he's the role. We had this connection instantly that I felt like he gets me, he knows horror. I go, I'm doing sort of a little impression from, he goes, Return of the Living Dead, mate, yeah. And we just hit it off.
I mean, Jamie came out of it, that's him. That's the guy, without a question.
He beat guys who were way more experienced and had way more credits than he did. And it was like, that's our guy.
Michael would turn into Christopher Walken on set. He would just start being Christopher Walken. And he had us all, because actors all love Christopher Walken. And he had us all in the palm of his hand from that moment on.
And I think that's filmmaking. You have fun. You enjoy each other, because it's fake. It's not real. People enjoy, you're doing something. People are digging ditches, for God's sakes. You're making movies. What are you, an asshole?
Let's talk about Tara Reid. She had a small role in The Big Lebowski. And she got to play this kind of fun role, right? Because she's beautiful, she's racy, she had her own radio, show, but also kind of wild. She's a bit of a bad girl, but also just so funny and really smart, and kind of brought, again, an unconventional sort of surprise with her character. So that was really fun too, because part of the movie, I think, was also sort of launching the careers of all these young actors.
I was very lucky to have Jamie in my life, to be one of my first directors. He gave me the space to create. And he would give me what he wanted, what he thought about, but he's like, now you add your thing in. And we created Sasha together.
When it came to the adult casting, Mike Medavoy is obviously a movie buff, so I think every time Jamie suggested someone who was a known quantity, I think Mike embraced that, was excited.
Your cast has to be well-rounded in every way. And to cast Robert Englund at the top of the movie was so clever, was such a surprise. And so for real horror fans, that meant a lot, because they knew who he was.
I remember coming to set just to watch these people. Robert Englund's gonna be playing your professor. I'm like, what? Robert Freddy Krueger Englund is coming to set? Yeah, he's in the movie. And I just remember, it was my dream. It was like, I'm working with Freddy Krueger.
I love the concept of the script, and I love that. But my agent had also dangled a couple of names in front of me. And you have to understand, my wife and I were huge fans of My So-Called Life. So I really loved hearing Jared's name. And I had a little crush and loved Alicia Witt, because I thought she had a potential, a kind of Carol Lombard, redheaded, wonderful personality and sense of humor. And I mean, we all knew Rebecca just for her beauty from her Noxema commercial or something. But I also knew that Brad Dourif was going to cameo. And I love Brad's work, and I subsequently have worked with Brad's daughter, Fiona, a couple of times, and I'm a huge fan of hers. So I really wanted to be part of that cast. I didn't know about Jamie, but when I met Jamie and talked to Jamie, it was like it was that thing about like old souls. There was a simpatico, because what happened was Jamie had mentioned some movie that he liked, that I loved, and once that happens, and then you say, oh, have you seen? And do you know? Or do you know this actor? Have you seen this movie? And so that's kind of our relationship on the set. I mean, Jamie would tell me where to be, or move me, or give me my eye line. But most of the time, the moment Jamie and I said cut, we were talking about like other stuff we loved, movies we loved, and actors we loved, and directors we loved. And those are those great relationships, because that gives you a shorthand.
We left it to Jamie also to say, okay, here's what we want. We had great casting directors on the show as well, so we come up with names. And Loretta was just, an amazing find for us at the time, and so thrilled that she ended up doing the movie, because you know, scene stealer. She was just great in the film.
Oh, great. Rent-a-cop to the rescue.
Put your hands up. Get up against the wall. You loony psycho bitch.
Every time you put the camera on Loretta, you were gonna get something unexpected. She would always do the script, and then she would just play. She would just bring her own ideas, dialogue, sass, attitude. And what was incredible is here we have a movie that's filled with teens, that's for young people, and Loretta Devine tested through the roof. Audiences loved her.
Amazingly, I think I had the softest voice of everybody there. So I had to really pull up and try to be bossy here. Where are you going? What you doing? So that was sort of like part. I can remember trying to always stay pulled up and really speak with some kind of authority because I'm a cop now. And I was only campus security. I don't even know if I had a gun that really worked in that.
This is the end of your rotten life, you motherfucking drug pusher.
Loretta Devine, I wasn't familiar with her at all, but she's wonderful. The character of Reese was just for her. It really was. I had not pictured her in the script that way, but I thought it was brilliant that Jamie cast her for that role because she was the most likable character in the film and the hero at the end, ultimately. Yeah.
I had been dorm director at Brandeis University where I went to school, so I had some insight naturally on what it was like to run a facility, to check on the young people that are around you, and just how goofy and how some of the dumb stuff they do. And so the script made total sense to me.
I've run into Loretta Devine at a couple of screenings, and she's in everything now. She never stops working. And she's a consummate actress, and nobody talks about her enough, although she's beloved in the industry.
I was so excited to work with Loretta, and she was such a joy. We ended up actually going to Niagara Falls together with my dad, who came to visit and who has a cameo in the movie. You can spot my dad in the scene where everyone, I believe, is looking at a newspaper. My dad is standing directly behind me. So my dad was there, and we all drove to Niagara Falls, and we put Loretta in the car with us, and we all had a wonderful day.
I hadn't even really auditioned for a genre in a long time. I was doing all kinds of other things. I was doing a lot of kind of action movies at the time. So when it came up, I actually auditioned for Alicia's role and thought, oh, this would be really great. And I knew Jared Leto was in it at the time. I think he might have been the only name that I knew. And obviously My So-Called Life, like I was obsessed, and I'm a kid of the 90s, so I was like, I have to do it. And went and read, and they were like, no, she's just not right for it. So I think at the time it was like my manager or agents or somebody kind of got into Jamie's ear a little bit about possibly doing another role, which I don't think we even had a script at the time, so I wasn't sure what else I could possibly do. So it was sort of my kind of in back into that fun little world that I had missed.